This man really knew how to flirt. Just when he reached out his hand for the woman to pull him up, he suddenly grabbed her and fell straight into her arms, making everything feel so thrilling and daring. Their very first encounter was filled with warmth and unexpected charm. He was a chaebol heir named Jung Seon Snow, so rich that money was all he had left, but now he was sent down to start from the bottom as a waiter to learn through experience. While pushing a cake cart, he accidentally bumped into a woman who was struggling in life, having lost her job and now facing her mother's remarriage. By fate, the two of them, both frustrated and burdened, ended up sharing drinks together on the beach, starting from the day and going all the way into the night, healing each other's hearts bit by bit. At one moment, the woman nearly tripped, but Jong Seon quickly caught her in his arms. That sudden physical closeness made both of them awkward, unsure of what to say. As he looked into her eyes, she, under the soft haze of alcohol, couldn't help but kiss him. At first, she pushed him away by instinct, but then immediately pulled him back by his collar and kissed him again. Normally shy and clueless about love, she became surprisingly bold when drunk. Their desires came crashing like ocean waves, and no amount of reason could stop them. When Jung Seon saw her response and knew she was willing, the roof of the convertible closed slowly, and the two of them were destined to spend a romantic and sweet night together. The next morning, under the warm sunlight, she woke up first and was shocked by the wild night they had shared. Suddenly, she saw a group of older ladies approaching. Embarrassed and overwhelmed by shame, she scrambled to gather her clothes and ran away with them in her arms. As the old ladies came closer, Jung Seon woke up startled. The women, noticing the girl had run away, began to gossip about the possible reasons with sly smiles. Feeling deeply humiliated, Jung Seon shouted, "Why are you all staring like that?" only to be met with even more teasing. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. The once embarrassed Jung Seon had now transformed through hardship and had risen to the position of department head. Meanwhile, the girl Yumi had achieved her dream of becoming a nutritionist. Coincidentally, she was assigned to Jung Seon's company. When they bumped into each other in the elevator, Jung Seon thought she was hallucinating. Later, during a meeting, due to extreme overwork and irregular eating, Jung Seon fainted. As a result, his assistant arranged for Yumi to become his personal nutritionist. She thought it would be a simple job, but right from the first meal, she hit a wall. As soon as Jung Seon saw the food, he harshly demanded that every ingredient be perfect. Then Yumi made grilled meat rice, but Jung Seon didn't even glance at it and had someone throw it away immediately. Unfortunately, Yumi saw everything. Watching her carefully prepared meal tossed aside like garbage broke her heart, and she stormed off to confront the department head. Just then, Jung Seon happened to return from a meeting and caught sight of her. Startled, she quickly hid and observed from the shadows. That's when she was sure. This woman was indeed the same one from 3 years ago with whom he had that fateful night. Jung Seon decided he was going to teach Yumi a little lesson. The next day, he handed her a massive list of complicated dietary requirements, but that was only the beginning. Even when Yumi followed everything exactly, he kept finding faults, refusing steak that was overcooked or undercooked, complaining about fishy smells, and tossing meals if she was even a second late. Scared of losing her job, Yumi could only vent in the restaurant kitchen while holding back tears. Eventually, she couldn't take it anymore and barged into the department head's office. All she saw was a lean figure from behind, but the moment Jung Seon turned around, she was so shocked she had to cover her mouth. This picky department head was the very same man she once had a romantic night with. Wanting her to confess the truth, the CEO cornered her against the wall. He asked if she really didn't remember what happened 3 years ago when she left him alone on the beach. Yumi kept pretending not to understand. Jung Seon stepped closer, pulled her into his arms, and gently bumped his head against hers with a mischievous smile, whispering seductively, "What are you playing at?" His low voice echoed in her ears, and as she stared at his handsome face just inches away, she panicked and ran off again. But Jung Seon wasn't about to let her escape so easily. He ordered his assistant to tell Yumi that from now on, she must deliver every meal to him personally. The next day, when Yumi came to bring food, Jung Seon stood beside a display board with a sly smile. Yumi's eyes darted to the board and froze. It was a photo of the beach where their fateful night had happened. Terrified, she avoided his gaze the entire time, while Jung Seon kept his eyes locked on her. As she stepped out of the room, Yumi thought about how she'd have to face this every day. She felt like she was about to break. Even before work, Jung Seon would drive the same sports car from 3 years ago, purposely cruising past her with a smirk, making her feel completely exposed. Realizing she was still pretending nothing happened, he upped the pressure. He brought out the exact same brand of wine they drank that night and invited her to drink with him. The moment Yumi saw that bottle, she remembered everything about that night on the beach, but forced herself to say she couldn't drink and quickly left. Finally, overwhelmed, she tried to call her manager and ask for a transfer. But just as she was about to speak, she saw Jung Seon's assistant glaring at her with an eerie smile. Horrified, Yumi immediately hung up the phone. With those scary eyes and terrifying grin watching her, she gave up on transferring. Since there was no escape, she decided to face the storm head on. She boldly admitted everything and shouted, "You're such a jerk. Why don't you go experience what I did?" In the Ocean View car, she fired back at Jung Seon. "I'm a nutritionist and you're a boss who's totally lacking nutrition. I'm only trying to help you. How can you act like this?" But instead Instead of being angry, Jung Seon was thrown into confusion. All he really wanted to know was why she had left him alone that morning 3 years ago. And with a heavy heart, Yumi finally told him. It was just a moment of foolishness, but deep down, her feelings weren't like that at all. Releasing all that frustration felt great in the moment, but as soon as she walked out, she was full of regret. Yumi was certain she'd be fired this time, but when she brought the next meal to Jung Seon, not only did he not complain, he actually ate everything clean. Seeing him suddenly act so calm, Yumi made pancakes and prepared herself to apologize for what had happened. But when she opened the door, she caught sight of a glamorous female live streamer clinging closely to Jung Seon. Shocked and embarrassed, Yumi turned to leave, but Jung Seon called her back. Seeing the gorgeous woman in high-end clothes while she stood there in her oil-stained work uniform made Yumi feel a deep wave of inferiority. The next day, the live streamer, trying to win over Jung Seon, brought top-quality ingredients and fancy tableware, accusing Yumi's food of often being rejected, saying it looked ugly and tasted bad. She even demanded that Yumi send her photos of every future meal. Just as Yumi was feeling completely overwhelmed, Jung Seon walked in and, without a word, pulled Yumi into his arms and declared his stance boldly, then took her by the hand and walked out with her, leaving the stunned live streamer behind, fuming in silence. Jung Seon took Yumi to a luxury restaurant, but not to eat. They were there to sneak a taste. He had overheard in the restroom that the company's board planned to use their connections to replace the entire cafeteria staff, but Jung Seon wasn't about to let his little chef be taken away so easily. Sure enough, not long after, the board members took him to the cafeteria under the excuse of inspection. The kitchen staff were terrified by the presence of upper management, but Yumi took out the dish she had secretly tasted before and recreated it perfectly. She nailed the challenge, and now it was Jung Seon's turn. "Dr. Jung, lend a hand," someone joked. "This is the cafeteria's festival now." With a mischievous smile, Jung Seon put on such a performance that the board director, who had never had asthma, was scared into a sudden attack. While on a business trip, even surrounded by gourmet dishes, Jung Seon still felt something was missing. On the way back, he asked Yumi to prepare him a lunchbox. She had no choice but to bring her 3-year-old brother along to his lavish villa. But just as she was preparing sandwiches, a crash startled her. It was her brother who had broken an exquisite little box. Thinking it must have held something expensive like a necklace, she quickly placed it back. But inside that box was the one item Yumi had left behind 3 years ago. Feeling guilty, she made an extra adorable lunchbox the next day. But of course, the arrogant CEO Jung Seon wouldn't be fond of childlike food. He sternly told her never to make him lunches with eyes and noses again. Yet the moment she left, he started taking pictures of it obsessively, acting all tsundere and tough. That night, when he returned home, he noticed the box had been moved. This scared him stiff. His imagination ran wild. Afraid she might think he was a weirdo, he rushed to Yumi's home to confront her first. He accused her of entering his study, but Yumi calmly brought out a similar-looking accessory intending to compensate him. Jung Seon panicked, asking if she had looked inside. Yumi said just the size gave it away. In Jung Seon's mind were 2 items, but in Yumi's, it was just one. Thus began a hilariously mismatched conversation. As Jung Seon squirmed with embarrassment, suddenly a sound interrupted them. Another man pulled Yumi close to him, making Jung Seon furious. The next day, before work ended, Jung Seon wanted to keep Yumi around. He acted aloof after she brought his meal, but after she left, he glanced sideways, built up emotion, and devoured the food like a starving wolf. Meanwhile, Yumi was invited by her childhood friend to go to Han River with her brother. But just then, she got a text from Jung Seon, forcing her to prepare another meal bucket. Despite still being cold on the surface, something about his aloofness made Yumi inexplicably annoyed. This time, Jung Seon chugged down an entire digestive drink before wolfing down his meal again. Her Han River trip was ruined. Her childhood friend called to say he was coming to pick her up, but Jung Seon overheard the whole thing. Yumi was flustered, but Jung Seon didn't care. He devoured 3 meals in a night like a madman, making Yumi stare with wide eyes. But since he was her boss, she had no choice but to comply. When she brought him instant noodles, Jung Seon even used the childhood friend's book as a placemat, determined to keep her from running off. He forced himself to eat the noodles, and when the timing felt right, he dropped the act and began to flirt hard. He needed confirmation. Moving close, teasing at such short range, he made Yumi nervous to the point where she tried to escape by offering to get water. But he caught her hand, pushed the chair back, and stood beside her, saying, "Why did you bring this to trick me?" Faced with such a strong advance, Yumi fled again, but her heart was no longer calm. The next day in the elevator, Jung Seon overheard another call from the childhood friend. He immediately ordered his assistant to tell Yumi to prepare today's staff meals, but this info got leaked to the clingy live streamer, who arranged a luxurious meal of her own. When Yumi brought her carefully made bento, no one even looked at it. Crushed, she left with her self-esteem in tatters. But Jung Seon, being a man of responsibility, picked 10 servings from her bento box. Back in the kitchen, Yumi got a call from his assistant. Jung Seon had eaten himself into the hospital. She rushed over and asked why he was so foolish. He replied that he remembered her saying food shouldn't be wasted. Even while lying in a hospital bed, he was still jealous, asking why she didn't go on a date with her boyfriend. Yumi finally told him that guy was just a close friend. Hearing that, Jongseon secretly smiled. After being discharged, he pretended to be weak just to win her sympathy. When Yumi began to feel sorry for him, he leaned close behind her and whispered, "You have to take responsibility. Your bento made me unable to work." Flustered, Yumi asked, "How should I take responsibility?" And he said, "Eat with me." What? The CEO's bold move was straight out of a K-drama. He had Yumi carry the dishes with both hands and warned her the plates were expensive. She'd better not drop them. Just when Yumi thought it was no big deal, Jongseon suddenly kissed her. And then, just as she stood there stunned, he leaned in again for a deep kiss. After confidently carrying the plates, Jongseon walked coolly to the dining table while Yumi stood frozen, completely stunned and unable to snap out of it. Their first date, cunningly planned by Jongseon, was set at his home. Just as he was about to feed Yumi in a sweet moment, the doorbell suddenly rang. Jongseon opened the door and was immediately startled. His chaebol father had shown up unannounced. Yumi was even more panicked. The doorbell kept ringing madly, and only then did Jongseon slowly open the door. Seeing two steaks on the table, his father raised an eyebrow but still sat down. What was supposed to be a romantic dinner now turned into a proper meal with dad. Embarrassed, Jongseon quickly blew out the candles. Meanwhile, Yumi, hiding in the study, discovered Jongseon's treasured box and was stunned to find the breast pad she had accidentally left behind 3 years ago. Then a loud noise suddenly came from Jongseon's side. As the chairman tried to check it out, Jongseon rushed to stop him, saying he would take care of it. With a nosy expression, the chairman trailed behind, clearly curious to see if his son was hiding a woman in a golden house. Fortunately, all he saw was a black cat. After the awkward interruption finally ended, Jongseon went to the study to look for Yumi. The moment he opened the closet, Yumi fell right into his arms. But despite everything that had happened, Yumi hurriedly left, ending the date in a messy way. Their second date wasn't well planned either. On the road, Jongseon made a sudden sharp turn, causing Yumi to fall into his lap unexpectedly, sparking playful teasing in the car. When they arrived, it was just a small roadside restaurant, and the usually picky Jongseon wasn't thrilled but obediently followed along. Sitting down, he looked uncomfortable and even refused to wear an apron. Soon, his diced radish fell into the soup and splashed onto his white shirt. Yumi had no choice but to wipe it for him. Jongseon then teased her for touching a man's chest, leaving her completely flustered while he laughed happily on the side. Later at home, he proudly admired his own chest muscles. Not long after, they had another company-sponsored date. Even while on business trips, Jongseon would bring Yumi's photo and even picked out a pink dress for her to wear that evening. In the pink gown, Yumi looked so sweet and lovely that Jongseon couldn't take his eyes off her. But surprises struck without warning. Thankfully, Jongseon quickly caught her by the waist, turning an accident into a beautiful moment. The resort even offered a bottle of red wine as a gift, which Jongseon immediately snatched. As they fought over it, they ended up playfully wrestling. When Yumi finally leapt on him, Jongseon stopped dodging, letting her hold him tightly. After the playful moment, he whispered softly in her ear, "Where exactly is that beauty?" Trying to get Yumi to confess her feelings, the CEO suddenly carried her into the swimming pool. Lifting her up gently with both hands, he flirted in unpredictable ways that made Yumi's heart flutter, though she still shyly walked away. But as soon as she got out, she saw Jongseon floating motionless in the water. At first, she thought he was teasing again, but then remembered he once mentioned that he could cramp while swimming. Worried, Yumi jumped back in, shouting for help as she pulled him to the edge. Two employees rushed over to assist. Little did she know, this was all part of Jongseon's elaborate plan. One staff member signaled the other to leave quickly. Meanwhile, unaware, Yumi was crying her heart out, begging them not to go. As Jongseon threw meaningful glances, the staff pretended the situation was too serious and said they needed experts. Looking at the unconscious Jongseon, Yumi finally revealed the truth about 3 years ago. "I only wanted to help you. I saw your photos being blocked." That unexpected confession jolted Jongseon upright. Yumi was both angry and relieved. The two of them sat side by the pool, and Jongseon explained what that treasure box really meant to him. Without those items, he said, he wouldn't be able to revisit those memories. Who would have thought their token of love would be a breast pad? Touched by how much he cherished her, Yumi kissed him tenderly. Not satisfied, Jongseon leaned in again for another kiss. Just as Yumi kissed him again, Jongseon turned the tables and led the moment himself. They shared a long, romantic session by the pool, finally expressing their feelings. Not wanting to be apart even for a second, Jongseon would wait outside Yumi's door, either inviting her for a drink or asking to share some ramen, but was rejected each time. Not giving up, he kept knocking, while Yumi secretly giggled behind the door. The next day, Jongseon invited her to dinner, but Yumi replied that she had to celebrate her dog's birthday. After work, Jongseon saw her childhood friend picking her up. His jealousy exploded. He stormed into her house with dog food, only to find a little boy. Yumi, not wanting Jongseon to know about her complicated family, quickly took her 3-year-old brother and her mom upstairs. When love rivals meet, sparks fly. The men traded verbal jabs, then moved on to drinking. Jongseon ended up drunk in Yumi's arms. The next morning, Yumi's mom asked him to babysit, saying it would leave a good impression. So the cold CEO turned into super dad, charming all the neighborhood moms. moms. Even pushing a swing, he looked dashing. Soon, he was surrounded by kids. Meanwhile, Jongseon's dad had found out about his son's relationship and wanted to track down Yumi to end it. But when he saw Jongseon with a child, he began to wonder, could that be his grandson? Since Jongseon and Yumi had a one-night stand 3 years ago, and now she was with a boy over 2 years old, the CEO mistakenly assumed her younger brother was actually their child. The three went on a family outing. At the restaurant, the staff recommended a family meal. Just as Yumi was about to explain, Jongseon immediately ordered the full family ice cream combo. She never expected her love rival would turn out to be her own little brother. Sitting straight, mouth open, the boy waited for his sweet bite, but the ice cream went to him instead of Jongseon. Yumi looked at him in disbelief. How had her date with her boyfriend turned into her being the third wheel? What? Am I blind? She thought. Jongseon, on the other hand, wondered how he had ended up jealous of his own son. Even while walking on the street, he found himself left out on the side, until suddenly he heard, when Yumi mumbled under her breath, Jongseon finally reached out and held her hand, and the three of them walking together truly looked like a real family. As they said goodbye, Jongseon pulled out a gift, and just as Yumi reached out excitedly to take it, he cheekily pulled it back and said it was for Dongju. He then added that the company was about to launch a father-son underwear set inspired by Dongju. The moment Yumi heard father-son set, her mind began to wander, and Jongseon quickly tried to stop her from thinking too far. But the CEO didn't just love kids, he spoiled his woman too. The next day, he arranged a private office just for Yumi, filled with brand new equipment. The kitchen staff working with her all looked on with jealousy. Yumi half-heartedly complained to Jongseon that this was a bit too much pressure, but deep inside she was filled with joy at everything he had done for her. Yet neither of them brought up the topic of the child directly. Meanwhile, Jongseon's father couldn't hold back any longer. He came to visit Yumi's place, planning to secretly take a few strands of Dongju's hair for a DNA test, only to get caught in the act by Yumi's mother. A quarrel erupted between the two elders. When Jongseon found out his father had gone to Yumi's place, he rushed over immediately. Yumi was still puzzled about what was going on, and just as Jongseon was about to confess his mistaken belief about being a dad, Yumi's mom dropped a comment that completely stunned both men. Yumi felt disappointed, thinking that Jongseon's recent kindness was all because of the child. The chairman even went to Yumi and told her to leave his son. Meanwhile, the live streamer who had loved Jongseon for 10 years accidentally found out about the kiss between him and Yumi and broke down emotionally, even crying uncontrollably during her show recording. Gossip exploded online and Publix. Sympathy sided with the live streamer. These rumors became unbearable for Yumi. When Jongseon tried to talk things through with her, Yumi beat him to it and coldly told him she had already applied for a transfer. Jongseon pulled her into his arms in a final attempt to keep her from leaving, but Yumi had made up her mind. No matter how deeply they loved each other, she could only walk away with tears in her eyes. The vast difference in their social status had never been accepted by his chaebol father. Sitting in his car, Jongseon also shed tears. He knew Yumi had carried too much pain alone, but just like he waited for her for 3 years before, he would wait another 30 if he had to. After going back, Yumi fell seriously ill. She couldn't eat or sleep and was drowning in longing. Jongseon, too, lived each day by holding on to their memories. He went to visit his divorced mother, who had seen their story on TV. She encouraged him to be brave and chase his love, wishing for her son to be with the one he truly loved. But Yumi's condition kept worsening, not just physically, but emotionally. Her mother watched helplessly as her daughter grew weaker and felt immense heartache. The next day, during a TV interview, Yumi's mother bravely spoke out on her daughter's behalf, saying that love knows no time or place, and encouraging her not to worry about what others think, but to love freely. Inspired, Yumi finally made up her mind. She hopped on her little electric scooter, determined to find Jongseon. At that same moment, Jongseon received her message asking to meet at the company. Facing a massive traffic jam, he didn't hesitate to abandon his car and decided to take bus number 11. Just then, his father called and ordered him to come home and inherit the family business. But Jongseon had already figured it all out. He would give up his position and heir status, but he would never give up Yumi. If he let go of this girl now, she'd regret it for the rest of her life. His father was furious. Writing the number 11 bus, Jongseon rushed to Yumi with courage in his heart. A man who chases love fearlessly has a charm all his own. The best kind of love is always mutual, and only through separation and hardship does it become even more precious and genuine. The two of them moved forward, determined to reach the same destination. After all the hardships they endured, spring had finally arrived. They no longer cared about the opinions of others. The two embraced tightly, and the more you understand love, the more gossip will follow. But when you bravely admit your feelings, sincere blessings soon come. Their long and passionate kiss made everyone around them envious. Yumi stopped hiding from the doubts and openly admitted her relationship with Jongseon. And Jongseon, facing his father, was no longer afraid, because he had already poached his father's old team and started his own company. The CEO's charm wasn't just for winning over girlfriends. He had tricks for dealing with his dad too. Under Jongseon's relentless persuasion, even his father slowly began to accept Yumi. After all, what's more important than a son's happiness? Together, Jong Seon and Yumi drove along the same road they had taken 3 years ago. So much had changed in those 3 years. They had found each other in the sea of people, brought together by chance. They went through ups and downs, but maybe that's just how love is. The more storms you survive, the more you learn to cherish each other.